The iron cage. The iron cage is an idea from Max Weber, and in order to understand it, we have to keep in mind the kinds of things that the original sociological theorists were thinking about. Of primary importance and interest to them were the changes that they witnessed around them in the social order. Weber, in particular, focused on the processes of modernization, rationalization, and industrialization. Similarly, Durkheim looked at the division of labor and specialization. To really understand what Weber means by the idea of the iron cage, it's helpful to understand these other concepts. The basic idea here is that as organizations grow, they also change. Not just the way the organization itself works, but the kinds of relationships that people within the organization have, one with another, with the organization itself, and most importantly with their labor. Modern organizations are characterized by rules, regulations, and official policies that govern behavior and action. Record keeping is another form of social control and keeping track of what people are doing within the organization. They're characterized by formality and impersonality. As organizations get bigger, people connect with each other in less personal ways. And most importantly to Durkheim, but Weber also talks about this, is the idea of very strict specialization. The larger an organization, the more specific your tasks are within that organization, the more specialized you are. And there are videos about specialization, but also the video on bureaucracy will help you with these other concepts. The ultimate goal of modern organizations, and the goal of all these changes in relationships, is efficiency. And efficiency is what really fuels or influences this idea of the iron cage. Incidentally, scholars argue that it's about 150 persons, 150 people in an organization is when this change takes place. For centuries, there wasn't any organization that was really bigger than 150 people. And when organizations, businesses, factories became larger, they changed the way people experienced working in those places. Okay, so efficiency is all about order and organization. Let's give an example to kind of show where we're going with this. All of us know what an assembly line is. Henry Ford famously started building cars with the use of an assembly line. In an assembly line factory, in an assembly line system, each worker has a very, very specific task. One car is made by hundreds of workers, but each worker will only work on a very small part of the car. This is a very efficient way to build cars. You can build a lot of cars very quickly to pretty high quality standards, and most importantly, the skill of each worker can be relatively low. This person only knows how to put on the tires. This person only needs to know how to bolt the engine to the frame. This person only needs to know how to bring the body of the car down onto the frame, and so on and so forth. Contrast this with custom cars in maybe a hot rod shop or a specialty shop. In this working environment, you maybe have one or two workers that run the entire shop and work on every single part of the car. It requires very high skill, a lot of knowledge and experience to build a car this way, but it is very slow, more expensive, and each car is a little bit different from the other. That's kind of the point of a custom car shop. Historically, all products were made this way. As industrialization increased, more and more products became made in this way, and the skill of the average worker actually went down. Specialization, each person having their own specific job, and rationalization increase efficiency. What this does is it also reduces the cost of producing a product, and therefore more people can own more products. As research, development, and production improve their efficiency, they become cheaper. And so things that once took decades to develop now get updated every single year, and people can buy these products in ways that they weren't able to do previously. Automobiles, for example, were once the realm of only the very, very rich who could afford to have a car custom built for them. Now everybody can buy a car because they're made on assembly lines, and new cars make used cars more available. So what does this have to do with the idea of the iron cage? Weber once said, famously, about this concept that Modernization creates hedonists without heart and specialists without spirit. A hedonist, if you don't know, is a person who gives in to all of their appetites and desires without any thought of consequences or discipline or moderation. Weber argues that in this consumeristic culture where everything becomes increasingly cheaper and cheaper, and there's always a newer and newer model to be had, we can have anything we can imagine, but because of this, because of rationalization, and because of the flooding of the market, so to speak, with our desires, we lose the heart, we lose the enjoyment of having those things that we want. Similarly, as each person on the assembly line is becoming increasingly specialized in their labor, they lose the spirit of creativity and enjoyment in their work. Let's use another example to illustrate this further. If a person goes to the university to become an engineer, they most likely do so with the idea of building things that they have an interest in. This person, for example, wants to go to the university to become an engineer to build cars. Maybe they want to build very fast cars, very powerful cars, or very efficient cars. Their idea, as they enter their occupation, is usually connected with something personal. Personal tastes, interests, desires, personal passions. Now this person goes to the university, they get a degree in engineering, and they get a job at an automobile factory, making and designing cars. But their job isn't making the kind of cars they envisioned. It's making a very small part of the motor of one particular kind of car. They are a specialist in making, in this case, motor mounts, but they lose the creative spirit and passion for which they entered their field in the first place. Karl Marx and Weber as well call this alienation, the idea that as you become more specialized, as production becomes more rational and more efficient, you take less and less interest in the thing that you're doing. You become disconnected from your work. You'll become essentially just another part of the machine instead of a creative labor building things of artistic or personal value to you. Now I want to be clear here, when we talk about the iron cage, we're not just talking about being stuck in a job you don't like. We're talking about a condition in which things are so rational that you lose the enjoyment, the personal value in them. So again, you're a hedonist, you have everything your hearts could desire, but you take no enjoyment in those things. You're a specialist, you're an expert in your field, but there's no spirit there, there's no passion. So what we mean by the iron cage is that you feel trapped by your calling. Your specialization is no longer a matter of pride or personal satisfaction, but it feels like a trap. It feels like an iron cage, a factory cage of production that you're stuck in. You become alienated from your labor. You no longer feel a connection, a personal connection with the work you do. Weber argues that this is because of an excess of rationalization in the production process and too much specialization. Our tasks are so specialized and so rational that they lose all personal human meaning. Now, when we talk about production and work, we can talk about putting up with the job and doing the job and getting the job done. Many of us have jobs that we're not particularly fond of, but we go there and we get them done and we do the best we can, despite the rationalization and specialization downfalls of modern labor. Weber's concern goes a step further than that. He argues and worries that this rationalization, this over-rationalization, will extend beyond production and labor and go into our personal lives and our homes. A couple of examples of this: we often associate home life with intimacy, personal connections, love, sexuality, in very positive and relationship-oriented ways. Weber argues that rationalization and specialization in the working world will spill over into the home life, and we see this now with things like pornography, prostitution, and other online ways of experiencing sexuality. What was once a personal, intimate endeavor is now simply a product that we can purchase. We're hedonists that have whatever we want, but we don't have the same personal relationship, we don't have intimacy as we used to. We may go home, in previous times we may leave the work and come home and enjoy our family, build relationships with our children. Now we sit down and watch a movie or play video games, and we don't have the same level of personal connection that we did in the past. Entertainment is a product rather than a source of relationships. So Weber's ultimate fear was that the rationalization of modern society would spill into all aspects of life, and that we would become in this process less human and more like robots. We would be automatons, is the word he used, simply fulfilling our role both at work and at home without real human enjoyment or spirituality, if you will, in those experiences. This is what is meant by the iron cage. It's an iron cage of the factory, but more importantly, the mentality of the factory, where efficiency and rationalization and specialization become more important than other human concerns. Thanks for watching.